What up, Buttercup?
Not a whole lot. Getting back into things.
I like the flower on your
I do
forehead
appreciate
there.
the flower.
But I
on my
don't see any
forehead.
yellow on your chin or nose. That's
Right.
Okay.
Claudia did say she would take all the calls, just FYI. So she's
She
in the
did.
chat right now.
Solid.
So,
Yeah,
Thanks, Claudia.
and then
Appreciate
she can
you.
take all the calls while you and I are at the NAR convention.
That's right. Absolutely.
There you go. Exactly.
What would we do?
Yeah, I have no idea.
All righty, Kyle. Well, we appreciate you joining us.
Happy to be
and
here.
I do want to just say, for the record, we had someone scheduled to join
Sure.
us this morning. They bailed the last second, and so you willingly stepped in at the last
do my
minute. So
best.
we
I don't
wanted
know.
to say thank you for that.
willingly was the
I try to be a team player.
Try.
You know, it's a daily struggle, Nick, but I'm working.
Take
on
the
it,
punishment
okay?
with the wins.
That's
right.
right.
All righty. So I came up with a list of situations here, and I feel like I was going through these. These are kind of like real life situations,
I thought the same thing.
and wanted to get your thoughts. And so we're just gonna start going down the list here. So
Sure.
so the first one, I am representing the buyer, or you, the agent, is representing the buyer. The inspection comes back ugly, which we've seen this. And then the buyer says, just tell me what you think I should ask for. We see this all the time. We get asked this all the time. How do we handle it? What's that balance of making decisions for the buyer, instructing on what you think that they should do? How do we go about that without putting ourselves in? And then what is the risk associated if we cross that line?
We all
Wow,
know that our
that's a pretty
clients,
good
so there's a little bit to unpack there.
Yeah.
We all understand that our clients expect us to answer all things, to be all things, because we're the ones in front of them. And that's just the way this business is. And that's okay. But we also as agents have to be understanding that there's a big difference between advising and deciding. Like we can advise, and we should be advising all day long. And if they say, what would you do? My answer is kind of like, it doesn't matter what I would do. Here are your options. Here are the things that I see here, but you make the ultimate choice. We can ask for as much as you want or as little as you want. Here is the potential impact of asking for the whole inspection report to be repaired. Although ask for whatever you want, right? Like when it comes to the Binzer process, people get so fired up. You hear agents say all the time, like, oh, this person clearly doesn't have control of their client. It's like, that is crazy to me. You know what I mean? Like the client is the client is the
Recently, I
decider.
had a client I had no control
Sure,
of.
and well, yeah,
It's like it was.
That happens.
and what I take from that is that the client's just not taking advice potentially. But at the end of the day, like this isn't it's not an affront to you. It's just they get to ask for what they want. You receive it. You get to respond what you want. No big deal either way.
So I like looking at it as though you are there helping them decide to help them determine what it is. Again, we're going to anticipate that you guys have already walked them through the inspection process. You told them what to anticipate. You told them, the fact that it's the seller has really no warranty other than to give you the property in the same condition as of the date of the contract, unless something breaks in between, of course. But those are the types of things. So if we've had some of those conversations, it does help minimize the backside issue.
100%.
But on that same token, because this is, to Mike's point, this is what really happens out there in the real world. And when Lynn has come up to me and asked me the same type of questions, what should I say? I always say to people to say, well, you know what? It's
Check ARS statute
No.
107.4.
No. I can't do that. I can't do that with Lynn. She'll walk out. So, but the thing is that, there you go. But the thing is just simple. Let me just kind of turn this around and ask you a couple of questions to see if we can identify this. What are the things that, is there anything on here that would be a deal breaker for you? What are the things that are most important? Did you get a chance to do all your, inspect? And it's kind of like a recap.
Sure.
But specifically, what should I do comes out of the conversation of these really don't matter to me. And so as a particular, should I ask for money? Should I not ask for money? Should I get them repaired? Should I not? But remember, if you got a good price up front, you already know that where your position is in the deal. And I would say, don't use them as leverage unless you need to use them as leverage. Sure. Otherwise,
But, well, let me ask you this, Kyle. You said something interesting. So, as an agent, can I say to the buyer, if this was my situation
Mhm.
and I was buying this house, this is what I would like.
Can you?
do.
Yes, I try. I mean, but I try to
'Cause I do it
steer
all the
clear
time.
of
And I'm
that,
just- I'm gonna be
and that's
candid.
okay. There's nothing wrong, because that part of that is there is advice within those nuggets of information that you're giving, but also I don't necessarily want them. They are not you. Like their needs and
No.
things they care about may not be what you care about. To me, it's just put it out there, whatever you want to ask for. But also to Todd's point, like setting expectations early in a transaction, just about the processes and things we're going to be seeing. I often say to agents, think about you receiving this. So you're selling your home and a buyer sends you a
Laundry
2-page Binzer. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about that? Because that, emotions are a real thing within a transaction, and it's you sometimes have to think about how something's going to be received before you put pen to paper.
I would just like to quickly give
no
a call
fun,
back
Nick.
to my
No fun,
long
Nick.
book review from last week. This is a fantastic thing that you would learn how to navigate through by reading Never Split the Difference, and having a better idea and understanding of having harder conversations, being able to ask the right questions, mirror the individual, let them feel heard, but also then letting them walk through this path on their own by you asking the right questions at the right time.
Good stuff.
There you go.
All right.
Shameless plug.
gonna go
back over here
Shameless
now.
plug.
Yeah.
Go listen to last week's
Why don't
episode.
you, Nick should write a book.
He should.
No fun, Nick.
Yeah, no fun, Nick. All right. This next one's one of my favorites because
Good, because you're going to answer it.
one of my pet peeves is when an agent tells me, well, that's not fair to other agents.
Mhm.
I don't give a rat's you know what
Mhm.
about
Tail.
other agents'
Mhm.
feelings. At the end of the
Agreed.
day, my fiduciary responsibilities to my buyer.
Yep.
Your fiduciary responsibilities to your seller. And when the roles are reversed, my fiduciary responsibilities to my seller.
Yep.
My job is to get the most amount of money
Yep.
and the best deal possible for
But
them.
what's going to get it done, Mike?
So here's the situation. Well, do you want to know or do you,
You know
want to
the
know?
number.
Sounded like it
All
was
right.
a setup.
So you get multiple offers on your listing. And one buyer's agent calls asking, just tell me what number gets this done.
Mhm.
And I've often been that buyer's agent, and the agent will say, well, just submit your highest and best because that's not fair to other agents. And my response is, well, what's best for your seller? I have a conversation with my sellers, and we put it in writing that if they want me to, I am willing to disclose all terms of every other offer that we're sitting on
Mhm.
and let them know. And just because the new offer coming in's higher doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean it's best.
Correct.
But I don't care about your feelings. I care about my seller's feelings, and I care about their bottom line.
100%. I don't know that there's much that I can add to
Yeah,
that.
that
I
was
saw
good.
that
That was a
question and I
great-
knew that you would
yeah.
be the answerer of this question because you
Yeah.
deal with this stuff. You know what I mean? I agree with you wholeheartedly. There is very rarely a situation where you should be giving what will make or what will get this done. Why
Yeah, and-
would you?
Yeah, and I think the thing is just make sure that you give the same cadence, the same process, the same procedure to every single
each
offer.
and
you-
every.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like one it can never be a better, really treated differently than any
Sure.
of the other ones.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
you said it well and answered it.
I think you did.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think you put that one in
All
there
right.
for
Yeah.
you.
We getting any messages about how evil and mean I am? Oh, thank
No,
you.
I'm blocking those.
All right, I'd rather have the.
Okay.
All right, we kind of well, I'm not gonna say we kind of touched on this
Last week.
last week.
Yeah.
We talked on this, and your seller tells you not to disclose something. So you're the agent,
Yeah.
you're aware of something, and the seller says, "Don't disclose it," or "I'm not disclosing it because it's never been a problem for us."
Mhm.
What? Okay, here would be an example. My house. I got a basement home. So when you're on the street level and you walk in the front door and you look all the way to the top, it's kind of like an A-frame.
Mhm.
You can tell at some point something happened to the ceiling because there's just bubbles. I mean, it would look like like a water bubble, water
Okay.
leaking, so forth.
Yep.
It's never grown, it's never shrunk. We've never done anything about it. We've been in the home for 8 years. I've got no clue
What originated that issue?
what originated
Sure.
it, even if it is an issue.
That's
I have
that's
not.
an interesting one.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that is fair.
Well, I mean, I came in here prepared to say that don't disclose something is just a absolute non-starter. I think Claudia did a good job of covering that last week and going through it. It is simply not something that we can entertain as agents when clients are saying, I don't want to disclose something. The old adage that we all learn, when in doubt, disclose, that serves its purpose well. To your point, I mean, clients, sellers specifically want to not disclose because they feel like the negative impact on, desirability of their property is going to be sufficient enough that they don't want to put out something that's going to make buyers turn away. But to me, the counterpoint to that is it protects you. Like once you're done, you're done. You sell there is a buyer out there that will not care too much about whatever it may be, depending on the severity of an issue, of course. But in a vast majority of cases, you put it all out there on the spuds. It's not going to turn every single buyer away. And if you give them everything, they don't get to come back in 2 years and say you didn't disclose and pull you into a lawsuit and have to deal with like something hanging over your head. Basically, when's this other shoe going to drop? It's not if you disclose. If you give them that inspection report, like you were talking about last week, there is no other shoe. But if you leave something out because you didn't think it was material, and now this buyer thinks it's material, and it causes an issue, they at least have an argument. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but you're still going to have to deal with it. Do you want to? So to your point, I can understand, it's tough. The longer you live in a home, the more things, you notice and have seen. You see these bubbles, but you don't know what originated them. I'd still put it on there. If it's me, I'd still say, hey, take a peek at the ceiling up there. No idea what happened, but maybe you want to check it out. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, now you've put it in their hands, and if they want to do it, great. If they don't, great. I don't care either way, but it protects you and it leaves that other shoe already dropped.
So this is a conversation I have with a lot of sellers. In a lot of cases, I love to recommend as a seller, go ahead and get your own inspection. Get ahead of these things. Possibly know what's coming your way. But the response I get a lot of times, and I'm not really looking for an answer here, but a lot of response as well. I'd rather, ignorance is bliss. I'd rather not know, because whatever that inspector cites, I've got to disclose it. But as a seller, if I do get this inspection, am I obligated to provide that to a buyer?
It's now all material information,
I mean, the
or it can
inspection
be-
report, I should say.
Same answer. Yeah. And that's why, I mean, I might change your tact on that conversation. I don't know. There are obviously benefits to understanding in a more intimate way the condition of your property. I don't have qualms with that, but it's now a disclosure issue that you're going to have to provide to a buyer. Hey, these are the things I know, versus to their point, and to some degree, ignorance is bliss. They know what they know, but they didn't have someone go in and dig into things that they didn't know that now they are aware of. You know what I mean? Like, and to me, that's a buyer responsibility anyway. They're going to investigate the property that they're purchasing. As a seller, like I'll tell you what I know, but I'm not going to investigate it for you and preemptively start doing things. Like, I mean, I know that people, so there are some sellers who want to do this, and I don't necessarily think I would dissuade them. I just have the conversation. Here's the pros of that. Here's the cons of that.
All right, that's what I really do.
Do as you
wish. Good. I just didn't want to say it in case I was wrong.
That's what you.
I'm never telling anyone to sell it to get it a home inspection.
Now I gotta like rethink everything you say here about like how truthful you're being, Mike. Holy cow!
And remember, a lot of people out there, Mike, rely on what you're saying.
No, I'm kidding with that too. No, but it's typically something a seller would bring up. Is this an option, and so forth? And you do have to weigh. These are the pros and the cons, and whatever that inspector finds, you now are disclosing it, and we are now providing this inspection report for the buyer. Completely up to you whether you want to do that or just roll the dice and see what their inspector has to say.
Flipping the script on that, if you're on the buyer's side and you come into a property where the seller has already had an inspection, provides you the inspection report, and your buyer says, great, I don't need to get an inspection. What's your commentary then?
We're still getting, I highly recommend that we still get our own home inspection. We don't know that inspector. I know my inspector.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Keep one thing in the back of everybody's mind too, is when you bought the house, and maybe Mike, we can just play this one out with you, since you said, hey, this was there when I bought it. Was it on your SPDS that you got from the seller? What did the seller say to you on the SPDS that maybe you just didn't care about, so you overlooked it? But now you're going to sell the house. Does that other SPDS, could that be considered the fact that, oh, wait a minute, you do know that, only you failed to disclose it? Now, granted, we never know. But as a listing agent, I would have that conversation with my seller. When you bought this home, I know you didn't realize that, but when you bought this home, did they disclose that to you? Well, gee, I really don't know. I don't remember. And the fact is that more than likely it probably was, which now if you don't, could potentially put you in a situation.
Also
so
true.
Just think
all that stuff gets dragged
just
in
think
for
about
sure.
that.
All right. I would love to know how many phone calls a week you get like this. After contract acceptance, agent realizes that they've missed a critical date that could negatively impact their client's position. What is the first thing once an agent realizes that they've missed a date? They got to pick up the phone. Who do they call first? And what does this conversation look like? And I had an agent. This was prior to my West USA days.
Sure.
I had an agent on my team, and Todd, you know him very, very well. And he was on my team. He started just credible, like within 6 weeks, 4 under contract, and 3 out of 4 of them representing buyers missed the the Binzer period. And day 11 rolls around. He goes, "Oh man, what do I do? I forgot to send in my Binzer."
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal.
It's a minor thing. First call you make is to us so that we can have a conversation about where do we go from here. You're right. We get these from time to time. I will say, take a deep breath. Like, the worst does not always happen in these scenarios. We are human. We are not perfect. We are going to make mistakes. It is our profession and our job to understand the contract timelines, to understand all those things, and to counsel our clients through that. That goes without saying. You're not going to hear that from us when you call in, and we're not going to berate you over it.
I get berated all the time.
You come up with different things that probably deserve berating, but the standard conversation is just simply going to be, what is it? Okay, where do we go from here? I mean, it depends on what the timeline was. A big one is appraisal timeline, the 5-day window. When does that start? We had an appraisal review. Can we now cancel? It's not common, but when these things get to be, the Binzer process is usually pretty understood. 10-day inspection period, 5-day. Like, we're all pretty well aware of that. The 5-day window on the appraisal one kind of gets muddy when you're doing an appraisal review. Like, did it start after the review comes in? So we get it often then, but it puts your client's money at risk. But we'll walk you through, like, okay, so if you did miss the appraisal, you have a candid discussion. You have to talk to your client. It's not something we can sweep under the rug. Take accountability. That's accountability in life in general. There's not enough of it. People don't take enough of it. It's always somebody else's fault or issue. If you make a mistake, own up to it, and we'll figure out a direction from here. And sometimes your clients aren't going to understand and be super, okay with that. Yeah. And which is, that's to Nick's point. That's a difficult conversation, but you're going to have them.
Don't ask for a Google review at the end.
Probably not. But you can make it right. There are ways. I mean, it depends on what the impact to the client is. If it's a timeline that's missed that costs them or earnest money, that's a scary thing for an agent. But oftentimes, like in that scenario, we would just say, okay, have a discussion with your client about if they still want to work with you. A lot of times that relationship is sour, but the one way to make them whole is, I'll go through this with you again. You'll buy a house. I'll credit you whatever you lost. I'll make you whole, and I'll make this. That's a good
way of doing it. That's a good way of doing it.
It's the hard part in that scenario is that the client may have lost faith based on the situation, right? They don't want to work with you anymore, but they also need to understand, like, I'm not going to pull out the money out of my pocket. That's just not how this works either. So anyway, we're getting in the weeds a little bit, but just the overall commentary is, call us. We will walk you through how to best navigate it. Hopefully it ends up being a learning lesson that doesn't cost you the money. I've seen that happen time and time again. So as I said, don't immediately panic thinking that this is the worst thing ever. But if it does, ultimately, if the worst thing does come out of it, we'll get through it and figure it out and, learn the lesson and move on. That's kind of all we can do. Right.
Best advice I can say to anybody is always, whenever something like that pops up, call your broker right away. Because if you try to hide it or weasel your way out of it, so to speak, it's only going to add fuel to the fire if there's a problem. So it's always better to own up. But before you own up to the
Mhm.
consumer, own up to your managing broker, your
Sure.
broker, and let them help you make that decision.
Yeah, the brokers hate it when I call them, and I'm like, okay, run by me how E&O works, right? That's when you know we're going
Yeah,
down here.
when the conversation starts with that, it's going to be a good one.
Actually, I've never. Have. All right, I love this one.
Okay.
All right, whether it's a exclusive buyer broker agreement or whether it's a listing agreement, your client wants to cancel, and it could be
Okay.
for a variety of reasons. And
Sure.
you know, at that point, contractually, they are not in a position to just unilaterally cancel
Mhm.
the contract.
Mhm.
What do we do? How do we? And I have a lot of thoughts on this, but how from the broker standpoint, obviously, again, it is call the broker.
Sure.
Mhm.
I'm glad you took it in that direction. I read that question. A client wants to cancel a contract, but they don't have a contractual right to do so as from a buyer standpoint. I'm glad you brought up the BBA and the listing contract, because those are, employment contracts with our agents. And yeah, I mean, the biggest comment I would have to that for an agent in a scenario that's having a client want to cancel on them is that your brokerage will support you whatever you decide. So you call in, like, it's always interesting. We'll get a call from an agent who has a seller who wants to cancel. They've gotten some sales pitch from another agent who's going to do everything. It's going to sell immediately, whatever the case may be. The agent wants to know what to do, and they're like, my seller wants to talk to a broker, and they're like, okay, they can call in. Well, I mean, we'll receive that call. We'll go through it with them. They're not going to get a different answer. They're not going to get the answer they're looking for. Essentially, the moral of the story is talking to the seller, you're going to have to discuss with your agent, and whatever you guys come up with is going to be the answer. We're not going to impose on our agent that they cancel the listing, that they cancel the BBA, because you two adults entered into this contractual relationship. Yes, it's with West USA, but we're gonna back our agent's decision there, unless something super egregious has happened. But that's very rarely the case. Yeah, so we'll support them, and then the agent gets to decide. The one thing I would counsel agents, like, from their end of it, is, do you want to deal with somebody disgruntled for the next 6 months? I mean, because if you don't give them what they want,
We call that marriage, Kyle.
it's more than 6 months, I hope, but I know what you mean. But yeah, like, you have to, because people can get when they're not given what they want, they often get pretty
Mhm.
grumpy about it, and they can make your life pretty miserable. So you have to, kind of think to yourself, do I want to deal with the emotional energy I'm going to expend on this person constantly, bringing negative energy into my life for the next X amount of time? So it's up to the agent, though.
All right, so a question, and then I'll
Sure.
tell you how I handle both situations, whether I'm on the listing side or on the buyer side. But
Sure.
the question is in your scenario, the client says, "Hey, I got sold a bill of goods from another agent." How are we handling that? Because that other agent should be aware
Mhm.
that the seller is under a listing agreement
Sure.
with another agent, and now they are soliciting that client. How do we, and I say we, you as a broker team, because I'm not calling that other broker.
Yeah.
I'm putting that on you guys.
Oftentimes you're not going to know who that is. You're not going to hear. They're not going to give a name. The client's not. You can ask them, like, who was it that said this to you, whatever. But oftentimes they're not going to give you that. Also, we don't know who initiated that contact. If the seller reached out to this agent, well, they're allowed to have that conversation. It's not black and white where you have the conversation, it's bad. I mean, it's not good for you as the agent. But if the seller created the conversation, they're more than able to have it with that agent. So, to your point, if we know the agent's name, and it's given to the our agent, and they give it to us, yeah, we'll reach out to the broker and say, hey, this is what happened, but we don't know all the details, of course. Just want to give you a heads up.
All right, so here's how I pretty much handle both sides the same way.
Sure.
And it really just kind of depends on how long I've been working with them and so forth. But they're going to get two options.
Mhm.
I will, if the buyer or if the seller wants to buy out of
Sure.
the position with me. We will come up with a number, or introduce me to your new listing agent, and I will take a referral fee. And I would do the same thing on the exclusive buyer broker agreement. Say, okay, like if, there's a difference if somebody has signed a 6-month BBA with me, and now a week in, and I haven't showed them a home, and they're wanting out, as opposed to now we're 5 months in and I've showed them 50 homes. There's my attitude is different, and
There's
my
no-
price
so.
it fluctuates.
Sure. There's no difference in the document. Like the 1 week in is as binding as the 5 months in, but you're right. Like that's where we would kind of say, like the 1 weekend person that wants to walk that you haven't done anything for, do you really want the headache of like forcing them to remain in this when you really haven't? I mean, is it any skin off your back that it's not great, but again, your choice. That's the decision, or that's the conversation we'll have.
But I like taking the cash up front,
I hear you.
because a lot of things can go really awry down the road. Because maybe they fire that other agent.
Sure. Yeah, agreed.
And then
Well, and then they might even come back, depending upon the way you handled it.
Correct. They just, but they just don't like, they never want to hear that they have to pay a fee. Like, I was not told this. It's like, you're right. You said that you would stay in this agreement for 6 months or a year, and you're trying to get out in a month in. Like, that's not okay either.
all right, we got time for one more. This is a good one. This is a conversation I have. This is a conversation I have before we ever walk into home number one, when I'm working with a new
You just
buyer.
answered the question. That's what I was going to say too.
Oh, well,
please continue.
All right. So you are showing a home, and notice that there's a camera or a recording device attached to the property. Does that change how you coach your buyers during the showing? And for me, it doesn't change how I coach them. I coach them the same. I just say, you always assume when we walk in, they're listening and they're watching.
Setting expectations, to our earlier point. That's 100% accurate. Just assume that they're going to see what you're doing. They're going to hear what you're saying. So
how do we coach them, though? That's where I want to get into. That's my favorite part.
Oh, then I'd like to hear how you coach them. I don't know how you coach. I mean, you just did, like, you tell them like it's this, I'm not sure about that, and kind of little negative connotations here and there. Is that what you're getting at, or what are reverse psychology?
Well, I'll
Is that
let
what we're
Todd
doing?
go. Todd's got some thoughts.
Yeah. So there's a balance between the law and what really happens. The law says that nobody who isn't part of a conversation can record it or can listen into it if it's not known that they're listening. So the reality is, if somebody's watching their camera and listening to everything that you say, that's really against the law. But on
if
the
it's
other,
in their own home,
I get that. No, it is.
I'm
It's
asking.
still against the law,
Okay.
because you're listening into they're a third party not participating in that conversation. Law's pretty specific when it deals with recordings, at least in the state of Arizona. In Arizona, one party, just one of the two people having the conversation needs to know it's being recorded to be legal. But the consumer, a seller listening to you and your buyer's agent, or a buyer and a buyer's agent, is actually a violation of privacy. So, but we're not going to go down that. That's never really going to happen. Nobody's ever going to really figure that out. So, but that's what the law says. And some people are law hungry, and they think, oh, because of this, I'm going, that's just wrong. On the other hand, here's the thing. Counseling your client ahead of time that, oh, by the way, this property, it appears, does have cameras. So don't tell me anything you don't want the seller to know. And in other words, that's just one conversation that you've had. Can you prove it later? No. But again, it's by saying that to them, that's letting them know, I have it, write down, or here's a conversation I want to have with you after, write this down, or something along those lines.
Don't jump up and down and say,
yeah.
this is it. We found it.
Yeah.
Don't show me anymore.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that's what I tell them. I said, we can always discuss things that are things that we're not a big fan of the house, without being too
Ridiculous.
ridiculous, but hey, you have a problem with the color of the flooring or this and that and that and that, that's fine. But if this house is the one, and I don't want anything coming out of your mouth that's going to give the seller any type of leverage over what we are doing.
Sure.
And I used to say, we'll wait till we get outside. Okay. But I've learned, and I learned
There's
this
also outside.
There's the driveway
Not a
can
safe
still
space.
be heard. It's not, and I got not in trouble once, but
Sure.
I laid up all my cards out.
Right.
And talking about strategy on this particular house and so forth. And,
Right. That's funny. But yeah, it makes total sense for sure.
Yeah, again, to your point, Mike, and anything that would be motivational or something that would tip off the other person. I liked your comment about the negotiation perspective, because that's really what happens. They get a leg up in this, and it's an unfair leg up. Nothing's fair in this world, but it's an unfair leg up. And did we have an opportunity to position our buyer not to fall into that? So that was really a good question.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, I'd like to give you kudos, Mike, because every single one of these questions is a unique but reality situation.
Well, we're going to thank Bob, my AI chat, for these.
Well, thanks, Bob.
Bob did a good job. Yeah, I like.
Now, the other thing with
appreciate the
cameras too
interaction.
is we no longer are in a position to be able to rummage through somebody's refrigerator looking for food because
That
you
would
never.
be just you.
Funny, I was never in that position.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't recall it.
All right, but thanks, Kyle, for stepping in today.
Yeah, anytime.
We leave everybody with a quote of the day. Speaking of the Boys Burger Club, a good agent knows the market. A great agent knows where to find the best burgers, and we're going to have one this Friday. Appreciate everybody joining us. Go out and sell a home.